Welcome back to World Literature. We're still talking about origins, and in this particular case, we're going to be talking about Plato's Symposium. Plato's Symposium was written down circa 380 B.C.E., so about, 2,400 years ago. And symposium nowadays, we think of symposium as a conference where people can go to get educated. But symposium literally means a drinking party. And in this particular case from Greece, it means smart people talking about how things happened, which is not a bad thing. So it's kind of like drunk history, except for drunk philosophy, drunk lovers of wisdom and knowledge. All right, and I'm moving to the part in the symposium where Aristophanes talks. So we have Aristophanes, and he is going to give us an explanation of the human idea of where love comes from, the origins of love. And he says, first, you must learn what human nature was in the beginning and what has happened to it since, because long ago, our nature was not what it is now, but very different. There were three kinds of human beings. That's my first point. Not two, as there are now male and female. Does this have resonance? Because in our Western culture today, many people like to talk about male and female as though you can break humans down in two ways, especially when it comes to love and desire. But we have movements in our country today that are breaking out of the mold that we've inherited in the United States anyway. And the LGBTQ plus communities, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and who knows what else, LGBTQ plus. But this is an idea that's as old as 2,400 years ago. And he says, in addition to male and female, there was a third, a combination of these two. Its name survives, though the kind itself has vanished. At that time, you see, the word androgynous really meant something. A form made up of male and female elements, though now there's nothing but the word that's used as an insult. So even back then you had people harming other people because of their preferred sexuality. My second point is that the shape of each human being was completely round. Can you imagine? So all humans are round, but think about what that geometric symbol is. If you have a circle, if you do it right, there is no beginning and there is no end. It's complete. That's a sign that stands for eternity. And they had a back and sides in a circle. They had 4 hands each, as many legs as hands, and they had 2 faces exactly alike, 1 head with 4 ears. There were 2 sets of sexual organs. My rooster doesn't like that. He likes to think there's only 1 set. There was 2 sets of sexual organs, and everything else was the way you'd imagine it from what I've told you. They walked upright, as we do now, in whatever direction they wanted, and whenever they set out to run fast, they thrust out all of their 8 limbs, the ones they had then, and spun rapidly, the way gymnasts do cartwheels, by bringing their legs around straight. So, at this point, humans are like Humans are like dervishes who run in circles with 8 limbs. Now here's why there were 3 kinds and why they were as I described them. The male kind wasn't originally an offspring of the sun. The female was from the earth. So the sun is masculine in Greek beliefs, in Greek philosophy. The earth is feminine because the earth gives birth to everything. And the one that combined both genders was an offspring of the moon, because the moon shares in both. The moon shares in the sky and in the earth. And think about this. If you're a woman, you already know this without having been told it. How often do you menstruate? Every 28 days. How often does the moon become full? Every 28 days. Our human biology is tied to our environment. They were spherical, and so was their motion, because they were like their parents in the sky, just like the planets or the satellites, the moon. In strength and power, they were terrible, and they had great ambitions. They made an attempt on the gods. And this goes throughout human literature, the idea that gods can be overthrown, and the idea that gods are afraid of human beings. For example, in what Christians call the Old Testament, what Jews called the Bible, when the people who lived and built the Tower of Babel, a whole city, and they built the first skyscraper, it says that the God looked down on them and knew that they would overthrow him. And so he went down and confused their languages to prevent being overthrown. Then Zeus and the other gods met in council to discuss what to do, and they were sorely perplexed. Can you just see Zeus, the king of the gods, going, I don't know, like Homer. They couldn't wipe out the human race with thunderbolts and kill them all, as they had killed the giants, because that would wipe out the worship they received, along with the sacrifice we humans give them. On the other hand, they couldn't let them run riot. At last, after great effort, Zeus had an idea. I think I have a plan, Zeus said, that would allow human beings to exist and stop their misbehaving. They will give up their being wicked when they lose their strength. So, what I'm going to do is cut each of them in 2. At one stroke, they will lose their strength and also become more profitable to us, owing to the increase in their number. They shall walk upright on 2 legs, but if I find that they still run riot and do not keep the peace, I will cut them in 2 again, and they'll have to make their way on 1 leg, hopping. Well, I don't know about you, but luckily I have 2 legs still, so apparently humans didn't run riot enough for that threat to happen. But what did happen is that he cut those human beings in 2 the way people cut sorb apples before they dry them, or the way they cut their eggs. As he cut each one, he commanded Apollo, the sun god, to turn its face and half its neck toward the wound, so that each person would see that he'd been cut and keep better order. And then Zeus commanded Apollo, who, besides being the sun god, was the god of medicine, to heal the rest of the wound. And Apollo did turn the face around, and he drew skin from all sides over what is now called the stomach. And there he made 1 mouth, as in a pouch with a drawstring, and fastened it at the center of the stomach. 1 mouth at the center of the stomach with a drawstring. What do we call that? And he tells us, this is now called the navel. Then he smoothed out the other wrinkles, of which there are many, and he shaped the breasts using such tool as shoemakers have for smoothing wrinkles out of leather on the form. But he left a few wrinkles around the stomach and the navel to be a reminder of what happened long ago. Possibly birthmarks. Now, since their natural form had been cut in two, each one of the human beings longed for its own other half. And so they would throw their arms about each other, weaving themselves together, wanting to grow together. So, if you're twinned in this creation story, was male, 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 female, 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 and then you get cut in half, you're going to miss your twin. Now, I'm a twin. People ask me when I say I have a twin sister, they say, "Oh, are you identical?" And I say, "Yeah, except for she has breasts and vagina, and I have a penis. Other than that, we're perfectly identical." But this idea is the original idea of soulmate, people looking for their missing half and feeling complete when they find it. So they weave themselves together. That sounds like sex to me. Wanting to grow together. In that condition, they would die from hunger and general idleness because they would not do anything apart from each other. Whenever one of the halves died and one was left, the one that was left still sought another and wove itself together with that. Sometimes the half he met came from a woman, as we'd call her now. Sometimes came from a man. Either way, they kept on dying. And then Zeus took pity on them and came up with another plan. He moved their genitals to the front. Can you believe that? Before then, you see, they used to have their genitals outside like their faces, and they cast seed and made children, not in one another, but in the ground like cicadas. So Zeus brought about this relocation of genitals, and in doing so, he invented interior reproduction by the man in the woman. The purpose of this was so that when a man embraced a woman, he would cast his seed and they would have children, but when male embraced male, they would at least have the satisfaction of intercourse, after which they could stop embracing, return to their jobs, and look after their other needs. This then is the source of our desire to love each other. Love is born into every human being. It calls back the halves of our original nature together. It tries to make one out of two and heal the wound of human nature. So that, in a nutshell, is an original idea, an origin story of human sexuality. That we as people are born with love, and we have to find our missing halves in order to feel whole again. And all you have to do is sit down and watch a half hour of TV, and you'll see all of these matchmaker programs on the advertisements. Find God's match for you. ChristianSingles.com. I can't remember what the rest of them are called, Cowboys or Us or something. People long to be with each other. And so in a way, this is a proto-psychology too, to say, why is it that people want to be together? Well, let me tell you about it. People always were together before Zeus had an idea. Before, when people were too powerful. And people were too powerful for the gods because they worked together as one, and this way people could be distracted for the rest of their lives. But I want you to remember this. According to the Symposium, love is born into every human being. And I think the world needs a lot more of that. Thank you very much.